Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope that all of you are doing great. So, today I'm gonna do my winter book wrap up, and I'm very excited because I got Kindle Unlimited in November, I think, and so I read a lot of books. Excuse the mess. I read a lot of books on Kindle, but I read like 5 books physically. So all the books that I did not read physically, I read on Kindle Unlimited. So first, I'm gonna talk about the books I read in December, and then January, and then February. The first book that I read in December was Good Elf Gone Wrong. It is the Winter Brothers series. As far as I know, only the first book is out. So, because I got Kindle Unlimited, I am able to dabble in contemporary romance, because typically I don't care for it. So I decided to read this one because it was also just fitting for the season, you know? So it's as I said, a contemporary romance, and it follows our main character, Grace, I think her name was, and I think it's the day before her wedding, she catches her fiance sleeping with her younger sister. Now, to give some context to their family dynamic, Grace is very much treated like crap by her family, the only exception being her cousin and her cousin and her grandma. Other than that, she's treated like crap. So for literally like 400 pages, you're just gonna read about how she's being treated, right? Like, she's undervalued. They blame her for things that her sister did. Like, they constantly nag her. Like, it is relentless, okay? And throughout the 400 pages, she does not stand up for herself. And I mean, some of her family members, like her grandma and her cousin, kind of here and there stand up for her, but like, for the most part, they don't. So I don't really like them too much either. And it does have a fake dating. Overall, this book didn't really make a lot of sense. It was infuriating, okay? The spice was fine. But overall, I gave this book 3 stars, which is very surprising because I usually hate all of them. But I think that's why I liked it, because it wasn't that serious. It was really funny at times, even when it probably wasn't meant to be. A lot of people hated this book because of it. Like, I honestly think I'm in the minority. I think that if you're like an avid contemporary romance girly, you might not like this book, but I did. I gave it 3 stars, and I will be reading the next one because it was really enjoyable to me for some reason, even though it was really annoying. Next, I read Forged by Magic. So this one was also talked about a lot on TikTok, and it was talked about like being a cozy fantasy. So it follows our main character, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Diella. I'm gonna call her D. So it follows our main character, D, and she is an orc, okay? And she is essentially the king's property, or like slave, and she's also his assassin. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure he basically killed off the entire orc species except for her, because they were like childhood friends or something. So she's the only living orc, at least as we know. And he puts her on this mission to kill some dragons, because dragons are like really powerful you know. So he wants her to kill these dragons, and so she ends up at this like little town where she meets different kinds of people and experiences friendship and love and whatever. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It was decent. I think the magic system was kind of interesting. Basically, the different species have like a weakness. So like orcs, cis weakness is water. So like when it rains, it feels like her skin is like burning. I forgot the word. It feels like acid. I thought that was interesting, and yeah, it was decent. Okay, it was good. Next, I read The Ritual. I actually talked about this book in my best and worst reads of 2023, and The Ritual was on the worst list. So it's about like a secret elite society called the Lord Society, and it didn't really make any sense like what it really is. There isn't really any like backstory or like history about it. It's basically just these men who, it's kind of like, I guess, like the mafia a little bit, but the only difference being that if you are a lord, you get to choose a woman. Like, you get to choose like the chosen one, and she obviously has to consent, but that's basically what it is. And you have to go through like initiation to become a lord, and the whole concept made no sense. But so he follows our main character. I forgot his name, and I also forgot the girl's name, but essentially he is a lord and she is a college student, and they end up crossing paths, and the rest is history. This book, listen, was I having a fun time? Kind of, yeah. This book was definitely not boring, but I mean, sometimes it was, but overall, the concept was stupid. I didn't care for any of the characters. The spice was not good in my opinion. I don't know, it just wasn't, I didn't really like it that much, so I gave it 2 stars. And also, I know that dark romance and contemporary romance is not in the same category, but I kind of do put them in the same category because the relationship dynamics, and the characters are basically the same. The only difference is like, obviously dark romance is a little bit darker, it has like happier subjects, but overall it's kind of the same to me. Okay, next we have some good ones. So the last book I read in December was Hunger Games. I think it's honestly, I think my friend was talking to me about it, where we think Hunger Games is like basically a classic, right? And I feel like you should. I recommend everyone to read Hunger Games. It is on Kindle Unlimited, all 3 of them. I have not read the Songbirds and Snakes one yet, because it's not on Kindle Unlimited, but the other 3 are, and I really enjoyed this trilogy. None of them were 5 stars, but I still really like them. I was always hesitant to read this series because I thought it was going to be really like slow paced for some reason, but it was really fast paced. It was like action packed all the time basically, except the last book I think is a little bit more, not as actiony, but the first 2 are very like action packed and a lot happens, and I never really found myself getting bored, and I don't know, I really liked it. I actually think the first book is my favorite out of all of them. I forgot what I rated it. I might have given it 4.5. But yeah, I think it's really fun. definitely a few changes. And also in Hunger Games, when one of the characters dies, I forgot his name, but I don't remember his name, but it's in the first movie. When he dies, it's like a lot more graphic in the book than in the movie. I think at one point I will get the physical copies because I enjoyed it. It was really good, and it's way better than a lot of the book talk books. So yeah, now we're on to January. So in January, I read Catch and Fire and Mockingjay. Yeah. Once again, I liked all three. Maybe it's because I already knew what was gonna happen, but I don't know. I feel like what's his name, Finn. I didn't really find his death to be very emotional. I don't know, but that's probably because I already knew he was gonna die. But I also just found Katniss. I really like her as a main character. I found that it was really funny to be in her head, and she's such a badass. Like, Katniss is just, I think, such a good character, a good written character, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I'm assuming most of you have already seen the movie, so you know what happens, but it was good. So yeah, next I actually listened to this book on audio because I heard that the audiobook was supposed to be really good. So I listened to Butcher and Blackbird. Once again, it was talked about on TikTok, so I wanted to listen to it. I think I gave it 2 stars. The audiobook was definitely good. I did like the audiobook, but the actual content I wasn't a huge fan of. So it's about 2 main characters who are serial killers. Like, they both kill bad people, and they end up doing this like competition where they meet up once a year to, I think it was like a killing competition. So it takes place in the span of a few years before they actually get together. So I guess in some ways it's slow burn, but not really. And I don't know, I found it kind of icky at times. There's one scene in particular not at the beginning, but like a little bit in the book, where he like breaks down and starts crying about losing her, and like typically I would be like, yeah, makes sense, but they didn't know each other really at that point, so I just found it really bizarre. I'm sorry, it made me laugh. It gave me the major deepest ick. No. This book made me laugh once, and it wasn't even something that they did. There was a character who like burped in the background, and that made me giggle. Other than that, I didn't really find anything funny. It's supposed to be like a comedy, but it didn't do it for me. So next I actually don't remember what the sequel is called, but I read it's a series called Rowan, and I read the sequel. I listened to it on audio, and I ended up DNFing it. Not really much else to say about that. Okay, next, now we have a physical book. This is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I finally finished it. I finished it in January, but I started it in like November. It took me months to finish it. And it's not because I didn't like the book, I just found it kind of boring at times. This cover is gorgeous. I bought this book because of the cover. Like, it is so pretty. So this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's about these 2 witch families who are beefing, essentially, and they both fighting to like dominate the they're both fighting to like dominate the empire. I don't know how else to say it. Like they're both involved. Both families are involved in like a magic drug type deal, and both of them want to be the one that lands on top. Okay, Snow lands on top. And so it has the forbidden romance. I really liked the characters. One of the characters in here reminded me a lot of Nesta, actually from Akatar. It's very romantic. I think that she's a very good writer. There was a lot of really poetic quotes, and yeah, I really liked especially one of the characters. I forgot his name, but he's like one of the love interests. I really liked him. I thought that he was such a rizzler. And yeah. For 12 years, the families have maintained a fraught stalemate. Then everything is thrown into disarray. Bad blood carries them to the brink of disaster, even as fate draws together a brother and a sister from either side. Yet the siblings still struggle for power, and internal conflicts could destroy each family from within. I forgot what I gave it, 3.5 I think. It also has art, which I thought was really pretty as well. Yeah. Next, I read another Kindle book, and I read Flawless. The reason I wanted to read this book is because Haley Jean ASMR talked very highly of it. I didn't like it. Now, one of my biggest book pet peeves is when the author or like the guy, or like when they talk about how small the girl is. It genuinely makes me so mad. It just pisses me off. I think it's so weird. I liked the first maybe 20% of this book. Like that was a solid 3.5 for me. I liked the main character. I thought this book was really different from other romances I've read. It's a small town romance about this guy who is a bull rider, and she works at her dad's, not law firm, I forgot what. She works at her dad's agency, and her dad is like the bull riders, I forgot his name. He is his agent, and he ends up doing something stupid, and so the dad wants his daughter to like basically go to his small town and make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid. That's basically what it's about. I thought the premise was interesting, but then there's a scene where like I don't mind that the girl is smaller, like I don't mind that she is shorter or whatever, but the way that they go about it is what triggers me. Like when they talk about it's just so small. Like there's a scene where she like is about to hold hands with him, and it's like her small dainty fingers, and I'm like, please. And he also gave me the ick. I did not like the spice. He gave me the ick. I just don't like him. So I gave it 2 stars. So next we move on to February. Okay, so the next book I read, or the first book I read in February, was this big honker of a boy, House of Flaming Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book in the Crescent City series. Okay, so I don't want to spoil anything, but if you know, you know. I did expect to see a certain someone in this book, and I didn't. But to be honest, I'm kind of happy about it because I saw someone talk about this on TikTok, that Sarah's writing, or like Sarah's books, just get worse and worse and worse. Thorn and Glass will forever be my favorite series. I didn't care about Akatar. I really did like the first Crescent City book. But I don't know, for the most part, I don't really care about any of the characters in her other series except for the Thorn and Glass characters. But also, it was very just like anticlimactic. Like, I don't know, I found that like there isn't really any suspense in her books. Like, you know that all of the main characters will survive. I don't know. I gave it 3.5, so I still liked it, but I think what saved it for me was Lydia. I love Lydia, and I see people being like, oh, you only like Lydia because she reminds me of Aelin. Yeah, so I don't care. It did make me cry at the end. I think that Sarah writes really good emotional scenes. A lot of people said that they didn't care about Ethan and Tharian's chapters. For some reason, I didn't really mind them, and I think the reason why, and this is also something I saw people criticize, as we know, she has several POVs in her books. Well, it depends, but sometimes she does a lot of POVs, and she dedicates, you know, a whole chapter to whatever person. And I found that in this one, she added like 2 POVs in one chapter. So like maybe Bryce and Ethan, and I really liked that because it actually made me not get bored, because when she dedicates a whole chapter to a character I don't really care about, that's what makes it like kind of hard to read. So I hope she does that again, because it actually made it bearable. Other than that, yeah, I didn't really care about any of the characters except Lydia and Rune, but even then, it's mostly Lydia. I think that if Lydia wasn't in this book, I probably would have given this book like a 2, honestly. I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I've had this book on my TBR for so long. I also read his other book, The House in Cerulean Sea, and I actually also have another book of his that I got from Fairy Loot a while back that I need to read. I heard that TJ Klune is not a very good person, and also how his book, The House in the Cerulean Sea, is like kind of offensive, but very offensive. So that sucks because he's a really good writer. But I actually preferred this book over The House in the Cerulean Sea. I don't know why. I see majority of people say that they prefer his other book. But I think it's because this one just hit me harder. I don't know. So it's called Under the Whispering Door, and it follows, I forgot his name, Wallace. It follows our main character Wallace, who works at a law firm, and he's like very basically. He's very like apathetic. He doesn't really care about anyone else except himself. He's very closed off. He's not very kind or good to his workers, and overall, like, no one likes him. Okay, no one likes him. And one day he dies. I'm pretty sure he had a heart attack. He dies, and he has to adjust to that. He becomes a ghost, and he ends up at this house. And it has found family, it has romance, it has queer romance, gay romance. I gave it 4.5. It was so wholesome, so wholesome. This book made me sob. Like, I was sobbing throughout the book. It is so emotional, alright? I was like dry heaving reading this damn book. And the character development that Wallace gets is just so good. And it was just beautiful, alright? Like, this book was just so cozy, so wholesome. I highly recommend it. But then again, I understand if you don't want to support TJ Klune. I also am hesitant to support Sarah. I also think it makes really good tapping sounds. Story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home. So yeah, it was really good. This has definitely been my favorite book so far. In those three, well, this year as well. Okay, so the last two books I read, I finished a trilogy. So I read the Dragon Republic and the Burning God. So this is the Poppy War trilogy. So just to recap what it's about, it is about it's a fantasy. It's a world in which you can summon a god. You have to be a shaman to summon a god, and you basically get like possessed by a god, and not everyone is able to handle it. And each god, there's like, I think like 64 gods or something, and each of them have like their own power. So that's like, so yeah, it is a fantasy, but that's basically what the fantasy element is. It focuses on the gods. So it follows our main character, Rin, who lives with her abusive foster family, and she ends up getting into this elite military school, and a lot happens. Obviously, a lot happens. The author definitely did her research, because I'm pretty sure all three books are inspired by real life events, and also the characters are inspired by real life people. I forgot who Rin was inspired by, but they all are inspired, well, not all of them, but a lot of the events and people are inspired by things that happen in real life. And it talks about heavy subjects as well, like xenophobia, oppression. So I gave all three of them 4 stars. This trilogy was also very hyped on TikTok. Like I was told, like I read time and time again, that Rin was like the most unhinged book character. And yes, I mean, she's definitely morally gray, but in my opinion, I didn't really think she did too many things that were unhinged. For the most part, it was in her head. Like, she had a lot of unhinged thoughts. She rarely actually acted them, you know? So I kind of disagree with that. Like, I expected a lot more of, like, unhinged behavior. I just got interrupted because my mom got us a toaster, and I'm very excited about it because I'm a toast girly. I don't like my bread not toasted, so I'm very excited to use my toaster. Anyways, I digress. I really wanted to love this series, and don't get me wrong, I still really did, because I gave all of them 4 stars, and I will recommend it to other people, but I wanted to like love it. One thing about me is I listen to music while I read. I always do, and it is extremely easy for me to cry during books if I listen to sad music. If I don't listen to music, I most likely will not cry, but if I listen to sad music, whether I'm reading or not, I can easily make myself cry. And it has never happened before that I listen to sad music and don't cry while reading, and I did during this series. I listened to sad music, and I cried once during the first book, but I did not like this book. I think is it's the last book, so it's gonna be a bit more emotional, but I didn't cry at all. Like, I tried forcing the tears out, but I felt nothing. I don't know if it's because I got it spoiled for me what was gonna happen. I don't know, but I just found myself not really getting attached to any of the characters. I still really liked Rin's and Kitay's relationship. I think that their friendship I really liked their friendship, but still, I expected to feel a lot more, and I didn't. I still recommend it though, and I'm gonna compare it to Crescent City, but I actually felt like there was actual suspense in this trilogy. Like, I was actually like nervous about what was gonna happen, because she doesn't shy away from killing off characters, or just like heartbreaking stuff. So I found that there were actually things at stake, if that makes sense. But yeah, it is still heartbreaking. Like, there were definitely a lot of heavy things that happened and stuff, but I don't know, I thought I was gonna enjoy it a lot more, or I thought I was gonna love it a lot more and be a lot more emotional, but I wasn't. So yeah. Okay, alright, and then the last book I actually DNF'd. I March, in the month of March, I've been playing video games. So I read Brewed in Magic, and this is the sequel to Forged in Magic. But they are, what do you call it, interconnected standalones. Like you don't have to read. At least I don't think you do. I don't think you have to read the first book. Basically, the second book follows the love interest in the first book. The second one follows like his sister's journey, whatever. So I ended up DNFing it about halfway because I found it boring. I DNF a lot more now because it's a lot easier. Like when I buy it physically, I feel guilty about DNFing it because I spent money on it. But when it's on Kindle, it's a little bit different. And yeah, I also forgot to mention, I also started reading The Sinner, which is the sequel to The Ritual, but I ended up DNFing that pretty quick. Like I probably read like 10 pages. So yeah. So those are all the books I read in the winter season. So that's basically it. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.